Welcome to Weddings Unveiled, the podcast designed to help you build a productive, profitable wedding or event business. Here's your host, Angela Profit.
Hi, y'all. It's Angela Profit, your event and productivity therapist, coming to you from the heart of Music City in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast of Weddings Unveiled, professional tips and secrets on wedding planning and event design, where we take you behind the scenes of our past experiences in the event industry, what we have learned from them, and how they have made us stronger. This podcast will help you grow a productive and profitable business to launch you into success within the hospitality industry. Today, I'm joined by the best communications and event consultant in the business, Alison Burry.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me, Angela. I'm excited to share some of our past experiences together. We have definitely been through some unique situations over the years. What are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to talk about trusting the venue contact.
Awesome. Well, tell us what happened this time and how you learned this.
Well, for this one, sometimes we can really trust the venue person that is the contact, but as we all know in this industry, it's a revolving door and a lot of people get burnt out. But for this situation, we had a brand new hotel opening up in downtown Nashville, and it was a big one, and it was a big deal. And so this client had already signed all the contracts for hosting most of their 4-day event at this hotel before they hired a planner. And so there were things that were being offered, like linens and votives. And of course, they have the tables and chairs and china, flatware, glassware in-house. And there were just a lot of things that were promised that aren't really typical. And so as I got to looking through the contracts and reading through them, I was like, wow, this is actually a really great deal, like more than average great. And I couldn't believe it. And then I found out that at the final vendor meeting, after we got all the RSVPs, we were actually going to be the first wedding to be hosted at this venue. And so then it dawned on me and the light bulb went off that they really didn't know what they didn't know yet. And so all of the people that were hired for this hotel did not come from the customer service / hospitality industry. And so I already kind of knew what I was in for, thank goodness. So as I was wrapping up a few details, major details, I'm not talking minor details here, I will mention this was an Indian wedding. And so there were a few cultural things that are extremely imperative that happen at Indian weddings, such as the groom riding in on a horse. That happens at every Indian wedding that we're involved in. It's just part of their culture. It's a tradition, and it has meaning behind it. And so at that final meeting with the hotel, and I asked the venue contact, is everything good to go with the horse? Because we had secured the horse, but in order for the horse to walk down the street, we had to have a permit. And I knew that we had to have a permit because I had previously done that for another Indian wedding that we had dealt with. And with this being a new hotel and the roads were new and they were paved differently, some had different fancy rocks on it. Others, it was just a normal road that you drive down. But the venue contact told us that he would handle it. So about a week before the wedding, we're following up, again, just to make sure everything's good to go, and thank God we did, because, Allison, I believe you called the city just to make sure the permit had been pulled. And what happened?
Well, I think that the venue contact didn't follow up and follow through the way that we had discussed that he would have. And so I started doing some research to figure out what all needed to be done. And one thing led to another, and we started getting in contact with the Nashville.gov people, and they were telling us all of this stuff that had to be done. And basically it's like a month-long process that you have to get approved. And since we needed this to be done within a week, there were all of these meetings and all of the prices and payments that had to be made. And it was very, very expensive to get this permit because we had to close one of the streets off so the horse could go down. And it's not just the horse. It's all of the guests with the groom's side, dance down the street. And it's a very long parade process. So Angela ended up having to go to multiple, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning meetings downtown to present these presentations, and she had to make all of these like PowerPoints to try and get these people to approve our road closure. And so it was a big just mess of all of these things that if we would have known a month before would have been easy and smooth sailing. But doing it the week before the wedding was a little bit overwhelming, and also the cost of everything was not anticipated by us or the client. And so they paid it because it needed to happen, but they were a little bit upset about it, which anyone would have been because it was expensive. But it was definitely a very good learning experience for us, so we knew for next time what needed to be done.
Yeah, and other things that were happening behind the scenes is that, typically working at hotels, I love most of the hotels because their staff is great. They're very helpful. But this time it was creating more work for us. And for example, there was a lunch, and I noticed as I was walking by that some of the linens were put on inside out. And then I go over to the dinner area where they were setting up, and I noticed that some of the linens were inside out, that the seams were sticking up. And so I went around and asked who the banquet captain was and asked them to please make sure that the linens were like face down, and heaven forbid me ask them to put the seams all the same way. Gosh, I just wanted the seams facing down, not up. And then noticing how they were trying to help us light candles at the last minute, and they were scorching the sides of the candle votive glass part, making it black. And, after the reception and the dinner started and the dancing started, I started just asking around. I always try to make friends with all the staff and asking them like, oh, how many weddings have you worked? And what hotel did you come from? Or what industry are you from? And I do not think I talked to one person that said they had ever worked a wedding, and they never worked at a hotel, and they never worked in hospitality. So no wonder these poor people had no clue what they were doing because they had zero training whatsoever. I was just completely beside myself, and I couldn't believe that all the little things that were going on in the background. I mean, again, people don't know in the front of the house what's going on, so we were able to help them and educate them. And gosh, I hope that their next wedding was a bit more successful. And again, thank God I knew what I was doing, because had this had been my first experience in Nashville, I don't think it would have gone very well.
Well, from all of that and everything that happened that weekend, what would you say that your biggest takeaway was from all of your experiences?
I would say that if you know as a planner that permits have to be in place, don't trust anybody. Like, call the state, make sure the permit's been pulled, make sure it's been paid for, so that you don't have to end up jumping through all these hoops. And when I'm saying I had to beg, like I had to beg. I had to make these charts with maps and talk through the road closures, not to mention going around all the construction that's happening in Nashville at the time. And so I actually had to pull some emotional stuff out on people and say stuff like, are you all married in this room? And how many of you have a specific culture that that if something didn't happen, your parents and your guests would be very upset because they were expecting it to happen? I mean, I pretty much had to shed tears, or almost to the point of tears, begging them. And, again, I just told the client that I would take care of it. They had no clue what was going on in the background, but having to get security and the permits and the road closures, like, don't rely on other people when you don't know that they actually took care of it until you have it in writing or you have it in email or something so that you know that it's done.
Definitely. And can you share with our listeners some of the different products and resources available to help wedding and event planners?
Absolutely. They can visit our website at angelaprofit.com. Go to the blog. We have lots of great articles and resources available there. You can also sign up for email tips and resources that we only share with our email list. We also have free webinars that we do on multiple subjects to help grow your business. We also have a few live events coming up next year, so stay tuned to learn more information about those.
Awesome. Well, Angela, thank you so much for sharing your valuable advice with us today. I can't wait for next week to tell more of our incredible experiences together.
And thank you, Alison, for joining me. And thank you so much to all of our listeners for joining us today on Weddings Unveiled, professional tips and secrets on wedding planning and event design. Tune in next week to learn more from our past experiences. And if you found this podcast helpful, please share it with other wedding and event professionals. Be sure to subscribe today so you never miss the juicy details of Weddings Unveiled. I'm so passionate about helping other event professionals, and with my background in psychology, I appreciate that our best selves develop from real-life situations, just like we're sharing with you in this podcast. So thank you so much for listening. Be sure to tune in next week for more great tips to grow your business. If you have a question or unresolved issue that you would like guidance on, connect with us at angelaprofit.com. For additional resources, also visit the website. And until next time, remember to stay productive and profitable.
You've been listening to Weddings Unveiled with Angela Profit. Join us next time for more insights to help you build a productive, profitable wedding or event business. For more great resources, head over to angelaprofit.com.